Howdy howdy. Not long ago, junk food companies tried to appeal to gamers in a very direct manner by producing their own advertising video games, advergames. We rarely see them nowadays, but these games used to be very diverse in both genre and gameplay. The big question is though, do these games make me want to eat or drink these products? Well, let's find out. Let's check out the best and worst junk food games. We're not going to go any particular order, but I'll rank each game in terms of what I think is the best or worst or just mediocre. With that said, let's begin. Ain't nothing. Chex Quest. Doom, but with cereal. Back in 1996, we got a big surprise when we got a first-person shooter in our cereal boxes. But how did this madness come about? Well, back in the 90s, the owner of the Chex brand, Ralston Foods, hired a small game developer team to revitalize the Chex brand. They wanted Chex to be more fun and exciting to young children. Good luck with that. Look at this thing, it's Chex, it's bland. Powered by a budget of $500,000 and a tight deadline, this small team got the licensing rights to the Doom engine. id Software didn't seem to mind. I guess they were too busy with their new Quake game. The Chex team ended up making a total conversion mod, a type of mod where nearly all the game animation is replaced. Sometimes even whole new game mechanics are coded, sometimes changing the game into a completely different genre. This is where you get games like Counter-Strike, Dota, and Garry's Mod. All these huge games started as modifications of other games, like Counter-Strike started as Half-Life. But by some miracle, the game actually finished on time and was shipped out. Not to store shelves, but to cereal boxes. This was actually the very first instance of a video game being a prize in the box. Probably what we would have preferred the Nintendo cereal system to have, anyway. And the prize the kids pulled out was kinda Doom, but a cereal slime world. What's impressive though is that Chex Quest does feel like a completely different game. With all the violence taken out and the art being so different, it had completely fooled me and I'd never thought of Doom. Chex Quest went on to be the brand's most successful marketing campaign ever. Weirdly enough, their cereal box game even won multiple awards. It was a nice charming subversion of violent video games packaged for free along with 50 hours of AOL, back when the internet was more openly treated as a subscription service. Oh yeah, perhaps this is where that notorious subscription trend started. Oh, and crazy coincidence? One of my patrons, Juzan, actually holds the #1 speedrun record for no monsters on Chex Quest. Isn't that just funky? Anyway, the influence and buzz of Chex Quest was actually so successful that multiple sequels were made and even an official HD remake was made in 2022. It's available for free on Steam if you are curious. I'd rank Chex Quest among the absolute best of junk food games.
Hang on.
Huh, what's up, honey?
Did the game make you want to eat Chex cereal?
Not really. I mean, it's Chex. Look how boring these cereal look.
They look like bland crisscross pillows.
Yeah, more power to you if you like them, but for me personally, it takes some serious lateral thinking to turn Chex cereal into something that isn't boring. And our next choice is Pepsi Man. This is perhaps the most famous junk food game, or soda game. This PlayStation game stars the weirdo guy in the suit from the Japanese Pepsi commercials. Japanese commercials, but all set in the USA for some reason. He wore this strange, skin-tight silver suit and tried to help people by giving them Pepsi. Like this 6 to 8 year old boy who is clearly too young to be taking in such heavily caffeinated drinks, give him a Pepsi. Or these two young women. At the beach. What a bore to be relaxing on a beautiful beach on a perfect cloudless day. Poor them. Clearly caffeinated battery acid would make their days so much better. Even their responses sound kinda lackluster. How does he give people Pepsi? He kinda just sticks his hand out and Pepsi magically materializes from atoms. Probably my favorite is when he tries to give some tired out teenagers some Pepsi and accidentally skis off a cliff. There's a lovely tongue-in-cheek nature to these commercials and they're considered classics nowadays. So it's only right that this Pepsi icon has his own game. In his starring debut game, Pepsi Man automatically runs forward and we help him avoid obstacles by moving, jumping, and dashing. Apparently the game was made on a low budget, which encouraged the creators to add in videos of a guy drinking Pepsi in between. I guess it didn't take a huge budget to just stick a camcorder in front of a guy who looks like he's in a trailer park and just tell him to down a Pepsi. It's kind of awkward and reminds me of those early YouTube vlog videos with very little lighting, when our expectations of videos were pretty bottom rung. I was top of the litter back then. Despite the seemingly American cutscenes, Pepsi Man never made it to America, so this remains a Japanese exclusive from 1999. Everywhere you run in this game, there is Pepsi. This town has absolutely no shortage of Pepsi. And the goal of this level is to get to a Pepsi machine, despite the fact that we're running through an endless cavalcade of free Pepsi. This poor fella works hard to get to his Pepsi machine. It varies a bit, but generally your goal each stage is just to bring even more Pepsi to the world. But the big question is, of course, after seeing all this Pepsi product placement, does it make me actually want to drink a Pepsi? Honestly, playing it more makes me want to take a jog. And the first level kind of made me miss Sonic Adventure 2. You know, truck city escape scene. Ain't nothing. Next up, we have the Doritos VR battle. Oh boy, now we're in the future. Plus I finally get to use Wishing to Carl's VR footage. She's a delight to watch. Anyway, there's always some amusement in making fun of, or at least complaining about a bad game. That makes me feel something. Unfortunately, Doritos VR falls into the far worse dull category. My team member Drake was actually able to play through this game and was able to download, play, and beat the whole thing in 12 minutes. So it's not exactly giving us a ton of content. The gameplay is as follows.
Launch the game. Gather Doritos on your floating island on rails. Shoot like 8 bad guys. The end. Bye!
Now, I wouldn't be upset at this if the game didn't cost money to play. It's fair if you call me petty for being cranky over $3, but for a game of this nature, well, I'm already paying to be advertised at, so it feels like an insult. The barrier for entry to this game is already really steep with owning a VR headset with controllers. But asking me to pay any money for such a ridiculously short game? I want my $3 back. I get that it's an ad, but 12 minutes is a joke. And it's not like this was uncharted territory either. It was 2016, the year for VR games. With a lot of classic titles coming out like Job Simulator or Valve's The Lab. The reviews on Steam ended being somewhat mixed, with some people getting the most out of their $3.
I'm actually quite impressed. It's very polished and makes great use of room scale. Basically, you run back and forth in your room to dodge obstacles and spikes while grabbing Doritos. The graphics are amazing and it's all very surreal.
I can definitely agree with them on the graphics and that surreal feel. I really liked that. It's weirdly calming being in this dark vector-based space you're floating through. The vector-based style really suits my personal aesthetic. I mean, check out these vector-based guns you get. So I'm ranking the Doritos game mediocre to good. But I do have good news for the advertisers. Seeing this game actually made me feel like eating a Dorito. One of the reviewers mentioned this too.
The sounds of crunching Doritos actually made me want them after I was done.
There's something surprisingly mouthwatering about collecting Doritos and hearing that delicious crunch. I mean, I'm not gonna get a packet, but at least the psychology works on me. I love you, Colonel Sanders. A finger-licking good dating simulator. Jeebus, even the title makes me feel like I'm watching an ad. The game was commissioned by KFC, of course. But despite the Japanimation visual style, it was actually made by a studio in USA. So what do? What do you think we do? We gotta build a romance with Tall, White, and Gruesome, of course. Honestly, half the intrigue of this game is just how? Up front, the artwork is by far the best part of this game, and you can bet in-game there's plenty of advertising for breaded deep-fried chicken. Even the loading screens are filled with chicken, and it's all very well drawn. It's certainly made to look attractive. The story? There ain't much. We're off to a 3-day culinary school, but not before a breakfast of KFC chicken. The writing is so cheesy, it embraces the cliche, but nothing can save this. All the dating sim cliches are there. And what's this? There's a mysterious student named Harlan today? Oh my, I wonder if he makes greasy chicken. I know in this review I use the word greasy a lot, but it was just an effect of when I worked at KFC. Back when I worked at the place, we used to not walk around the back kitchen, we slid around the back kitchen on all the deep fryer grease. Anyway, Sanders sure is beautifully drawn. I wonder if I'd find him attractive if I swung that way. Who knows? So, do you think that guy looks attractive?
No, he's ugly.
Why do you think he looks ugly?
Because he's ugly.
And my dog teacher, of course, wants the chicken snack, his favorite. Oh, I'm such a clairvoyant genius for figuring that one out. And lucky us, Colonel Sanders has brought KFC chicken to lunch for the class. Apparently, biting into a piece of this chicken causes me to go into another dimension of flavor. Oh, Jeebus is writing. I'm sorry, this chef course was only 3 days, but I couldn't make it past day 2. I was too bored and the writing's too goofy. And that was also the general response from reviewers. It's just too reliant on zaniness, and the advertising is about as subtle as Coca-Cola. And there really isn't much in the way of interactivity. I had to try really hard to not have my character end up in a romantic relationship with Tall, White, and Gruesome, but my character was still trying to state their attraction to the old fella by the first night. There's little game to wrestle from this dating sim, and it's more like having advertising beamed directly at you for an hour. The only plus was it kind of took me back to that thrill of getting to know a crush you have in class. Focusing in on that person, thinking how you're going to get to know them. For example, there was someone I liked at trade school, so I enjoyed doing classes with her and enjoyed whenever we worked together. I had such a crush on her.
My crush was a guy on a fishing boat, so I guess my crush was Colonel Fishy.
Well, our old crushes aside, I do have good news for KFC. After all that visual advertising, this game did kinda make me feel like a piece of chicken. So mission accomplished, KFC. Unfortunately, I went on to eat a bowl of oatmeal and berries for breakfast, so I guess I failed in that department. Hey honey, did it make you feel like chicken?
Well, it more made me think of long drive-through lines that spill onto the road and block traffic. Now, whenever I see the KFC sign, I think, welcome to KFC. Here at KFC, we say KFC you.
Next up, we have M&M's The Lost Formula and Shell Shocked. Oh my goodness, this game was a thing. How do I describe it? You literally play as a product, the yellow M&M, aka Yellow. The little story we have is, M&M's minis have been left in charge of the candy factory, and they're definitely not the best qualified for the job. So our buddy Yellow has to rush to the factory. Is peanut M&M's your favorite too? Definitely my favorite. I bet that's actually their best-selling flavor. You either play driving the yellow M&M through the streets, or you play a terrible port of Crash Bandicoot. Seriously, it's like they just flat out replaced the sprites of Crash with the yellow M&M. He even spins identically to Crash and jumps on crates. Except, of course, the crates are M&M's. Also, I'm showing the PC version Lost Formula. The PlayStation version Shell Shocked is basically the same game with worse graphics. Trust me, I'm doing your eyes a favor, but not your ears. Because oh Jeebus, the PC soundtrack is horrible. I literally had to turn my speakers off while playing because it gave me a headache. But this game's actually marked as edutainment because there's an additional option to turn levels on that teach math. Really? Math in M&M's? Sometimes math formulas will be posted on the side of the road, and Yellow has to smash through the correct number. The wrong numbers will be solid steel. Astonishingly, many critics consider this the best of the M&M's games. There was also M&M's Adventure, which I was tempted to review, but the critics were right, it really was even more boring. The most interesting thing I could do with M&M's Adventure is make a Sonic Adventure title screen parody of it. Sorry. Anyway, let's see how reviewers responded to this game.
It turns out Yellow is an extraordinarily gifted acrobat, but his car is uncontrollably fast, with tenuous steering at best. Driving a car through the candy factory does not adhere to the occupational safety requirements. This is a fairly well engineered game, even if it's traumatizing in the educational department.
Personally, I'm gonna rank this M&M's game as mediocre. It's not the worst, but I certainly wouldn't play it again. Our next junk food game is McDonald's Treasureland Island Adventures. Oh, I remember this one's box art so well, it's so nostalgic for me. When I first saw this box at 7, it captured my young excitement for the unknown. Hey, I know that guy from McDonald's. Ooh, check out that pink dinosaur. Is that in the game? Even the bright colors draw me in. And to be fair, this game does give what it promises on the cover. It's a very colourful game and quite exciting. The story? Our buddy Ronald has found a quarter of a treasure map. The 3 other quarters of the map are owned by other people. So Ronald goes and forcefully burgles the map pieces by beating each character senseless till they give up the map. Attaboy, Ronald. Who says it's not fun to be the villain sometimes? I played this one a lot, and I'm just gonna say it, this one is surprisingly difficult. At first I saw the game on beginner by default and I was like, beginner is for chumps and lesser wimps. A super experienced gamer like me plays the game on normal mode. Normal mode quickly handed my ass to me on a platter by the first level. So back to beginner I went. Lesson learned. Ronald shoots magic from his fingers to lay waste to whatever unfortunate thing is in his way, and a hookshot that shoots up to get to higher areas. It's a very magical, unpredictable world. Like there's this one moment Ronald's in the dark on a train, then the next moments when the lights are on he's being held by a bunch of rabbit ballet dancers? I guess it works in kids' logic. Otherwise it's a pretty standard platformer. You're meant to rescue Hamburglar and Bertie on the way, unless you're like me and ignore them completely. What's that, Bertie? You're stuck in prison and I have just the jewel to free you? What have you done for me lately? I'm the villain here. Now I'm off to go and rob a few more sentient fruit people. Anyway, what did other reviewers think of this game? What the? It's got mostly 5-star reviews? Maybe Ethan's review can explain.
I sold my soul to Ronald. He is me and I am him. All bless Ronald's big beefy bliss.
Well, whatever that means, I can at least agree that this game is a much more solid creative platformer than I expected. It was made by Treasure Studios, who also worked on Super Castlevania 4 and Gunstar Heroes, so they were well and truly overqualified for a McDonald's game. If I'd rented this, I would not have been disappointed with it as a kid. I'd rank this among the best junk food games. Next up, we have the Coca-Cola Kid. Much like Pepsi Man, the Coca-Cola Kid originated in Japan. This is another case of an advertising game costing money, though I will give this one a pass for one reason. It used to come packaged with a red Game Gear console. What a shame about the ugly Coca-Cola branding on it. The gameplay is a simple platformer, and as was the custom at the time, there was a time limit of 10 minutes per stage. Is your sugar water salesman out of HP? Don't worry, he can kick open a box to release cans of Coke. This game even has a lot of cool sprite work. Haha! You know, because Sprite is owned by Coke. Never mind. The Coca-Cola Kid can dash, jump, and slide at enemies. He even does a cool double backflip after every level, or is it a back roll? Anyway. But somehow, this game is even less subtle with its product placement than Pepsi. When we boot up the game, we start with a giant "Drink Coca-Cola" sign encapsulating the whole screen. We then see the title, in which the Coca-Cola Kid does 3 to 4 spins around a giant "Enjoy Coca-Cola" sign. What's this? Suddenly I have an uncontrollable compulsion. Must drink acidic black sugar juice. Despite all this, the game is actually pretty charming. And once again, it's been saved from becoming lost media on the Internet Archive. The sounds and music I hear in Coca-Cola Kid are so reminiscent of the games of my childhood, like Sonic 2 and Sonic Chaos on Master System. I played those games religiously as a kid. But let's hear from a real game reviewer. What'd they say on Infinity Retro?
The graphics are great, and there's some fun level designs, but it's got overbearing licensing and a boring soundtrack.
I like the soundtrack. What about Random AC?
This is more exciting than a colonoscopy.
Ugh. Now, I realize I'm really biased because I despise Coke, and more power to you if you like it, but for me, this game just wasn't as fun as, say, Grimace's Birthday on Game Boy. But other reviewers generally liked it, so despite the ridiculous amount of advertising, I'm ranking it good, among the best. But does all this advertising make me want to drink black sugar juice? Big surprise, no. But to be fair, you could probably reprogram my head with like 6 weeks of Coca boot camp, and I'm sure I'd still dislike the black-tasting black liquid. Grimace's Birthday from McDonald's. Duh. Why in 2023 would a major corporation like McDonald's make a Game Boy Color game? And what's with McDonald's obsession with celebrating this giant purple pear's birthday? What about Bertie's birthday? How about Hamburglar's special day? Why not the big guy himself, Ronald? Anyway, out of all the promotional stunts McDonald's has pulled for celebrating Grimace, this one kind of flew under the radar after the Grimace TikTok trend took the spotlight. 2023. But what kind of company would make a Game Boy Color game in this day and age? Oh, it was an unlicensed video game. See, the game was made using the free tool GB Studio, but it was directly requested by McDonald's itself. Grimace's Birthday was developed to be played in a browser, on a phone. Hell, you could load this into an actual Game Boy cartridge and play it. With a development time of just 7 weeks, Grimace's Birthday is a very short game. There's barely an hour's worth of content. Hell, I finished the game in like 15 minutes. It's a pretty straightforward platformer. Surprise, surprise, you play as Grimace. You're skating down one level, platforming through the city rooftops in another, traveling in a bubble another level, and you collect Grimace shakes for bonus points. They're for the party guests, you see. If you're interested in trying it, the game is preserved on the Internet Archive. I've linked in the description if you are curious, among other games in this list. You'll seriously knock this game over in like 20 minutes. What do the few reviews I could find say about this game's quality?
Watch me lose the little credibility I had by saying that a f***ing Grimace game on the Game Boy Color is better than Crash Bandicoot. It screams 90s products in the best way possible, and all the characters talk in internet slang.
And I agree. As I said, I played the game and I didn't have to force myself. It was a surprisingly good time to finish it. It gave me so many old school Game Boy nostalgia vibes, you know, took me right back. I played a lot of these games and I'd call this among the most enjoyable junk food game I played. I'm ranking Grimace's Birthday among the best. But the big question is, after playing this game and seeing all the product placements, do I want Grimace's weird purple shake any more than before?
A little.
And unfortunately, next we have Adventures in McDonald Land. Worst, no question. This game is so bad. But my curiosity must know, why does Ronald have an Australian accent?
Hi, I'm Ronald McDonald, the world famous magical clown.
Actually, I think that might be a Queenslander accent like me. Anyway, way back in the 90s when fast food mascots were still legally allowed, McDonald's had a cinematic universe, as Connor the Waffle accurately called it, called McDonald Land. What a creative name. And we got to explore McDonald Land in this sad 1998 CG monstrosity of a point-and-click PC game for Windows 3.1, which I still remember playing Chip's Challenge on. Don't mention them all. Anyway, we play various mini-games with Aussie creepypasta Ronald. Yes, you are right to assume he's going to eat our souls. Who wouldn't? The constant dead silence doesn't help the zombie atmosphere much either.
Uh-oh!
Each minigame is somehow less stimulating than the mazes you get on the back of cereal boxes. Yet despite this, it was somehow still followed by a sequel called Mission to McDonald Land. Both these games were given to kids in Happy Meals, because I guess they hated them. Mission to McDonald Land is about McMars. Oh, why me? To call any of these mini-games is an insult to mini-games. Mario Party has mini-games, but they're not even in the same universe as this pile of dump. Has anyone actually reviewed this quote-unquote game? Nope. 0 people reviewed it, 0 people want it, 0 people play it. Want to be the first one? No? I don't blame you. So I'll review it first. Abysmal. The worst game on this list, easily. But hey, it's abandonware now, so I put the link in the description anyway. I'm sorry in advance. Our next choice is Smarties Meltdown. Nestle throws their hat into the ring in kind of what I was more expecting when I started this list. It's well within the Smarties, lore. You play a blue Smartie on a Smarties factory ship, but some devious alien purple-headed blob thing has destroyed the Smartie factory. Apparently the Smartie factory is in outer space, who knew? Fortunately, one Smartie gathers up the courage to put a stop to this jello purple blob thing.
No! This can't happen! I won't let it happen!
The bad guy's name is Dr. Soursweet, and the blue Smartie's name is Big Blue.
Well, whatever the hell they are, Blue Smartie puts on an exo spacesuit and starts rescuing Smarties and punching out Stroopers, aka Dr. Soursweet's living sugary horrors. You can even upgrade to a Choco Ray, which fires blasts of chocolate. It's a bit like that Ratchet and Clank style 3D platformer. They were very popular around that 2006 PS2 period, though comparing Smarties Meltdown to Ratchet & Clank is a pretty severe insult to Ratchet & Clank. Sorry, Ratchet. But this game was outright destroyed by most reviewers. PlayStation Magazine gave it a 1 out of 10, and it remained their worst rated game for a long time.
This platformer is soulless, ugly, and utterly starved of charm.
Michael gave it a 1 star as well.
The candy is good, but the game is a tragedy. One of the few games I can find that's worse than Sonic Boom.
Then we had this 1 star review from Shrek Lol.
It's not fun, don't buy it, as if I had to do that. How am I supposed to read this?
Well, at least we know the game's younger target demographic doesn't like it. Personally, I actually found this game's visuals very refreshing. Just maybe stick to playthroughs rather than actually playing it. But to me, this isn't among the worst. I'm rating it meh. Our next junk food game is Cool Spot. Who says junk food mascots need to be complicated? Cool Spot is just a red dot. That's it. They threw some 90s sunglasses on him and said, there you go, so whose turn to buy lunch? And for a while, this guy was all over 7-Up commercials. And I don't find these nearly as obnoxious as Coca-Cola commercials. I actually kinda like them. But you know, I rented this junk food game as a kid from Blockbuster Video and I finished it. But despite me playing through 6 bonus levels literally set inside 7-Up bottles, I somehow still didn't realize this was advertising 7-Up to me. Look at that. I'm literally writing a 7-Up bottle in the intro and my stupid kid brain still couldn't realize I was being advertised to. In fact, he is the 7-Up dot. How thick could I get? But I did really enjoy this game as a kid. It's why I finished it. It was challenging, but unpredictable as a platformer, and creative despite the fact that I'm playing as a red dot. Your goal is basically to rescue the other red dots, trapped in weird black and white cages for some reason. But first you need 50% coolness. To do that, you'll need 50 red dots, which is surprisingly difficult. Playing it again, maybe I just stink at platformers that aren't Sonic, but this game was surprisingly challenging. But my questionable gaming skills aside, the big question: does it make me want to drink 7-Up? Well, 7-Up was already my go-to drink as a kid. Whenever I went to KFC, I'd get a can with my meal. So maybe it wants to make me drink 7-Up? Kinda makes me want to wear sunglasses. The floodlights are much easier on my eyes when I'm wearing shades. Anyway, playing this game again 27 years later was okay. I quite like the way Unseen Squid described it on Reddit.
Cool Spot was a fun time. It had so much flair, and the bonus stage inside the 7-Up is among my favourite bonus stage in games. It's aged a bit, but it's still really solid and worth a run.
It's a perfectly functional platformer, but not as fun as, say, McDonald's Treasureland Adventures. I'm ranking this one meh. Our next junk food choice is the very strange Darkened Skye. If you weren't paying close attention, you might not have guessed this was made to advertise Skittles of all things.
This just gets better and better.
No, it doesn't.
At first, it feels like your typical 2000s third-person fantasy game. These fantasy games are all the rage at the time, but if you look at the rare source of magic, my goodness, it's a Skittle! You see, this is set in the Skittles commercial world. At the time, many Skittles commercials were set in this fantasy world meant to appeal to the 20s demographic. Lord of the Rings had just come out and it was really popular at the time. Then I sat through one Hobbit movie and I was like, I've had my fill of these movies for a lifetime, possibly longer. Released into the world on GameCube and PC, 2002's Darkened Skye is almost your average action-adventure game, but it utilizes Skittles as a sort of magic system. And the writing in this game, I'm sorry, we just didn't have the same standards on writing in games in the 2000s, did we?
We'll never figure out what it says. It's written in backwards writing.
I don't miss those days, because this is some of the cheesiest writing I've ever heard in a video game.
Cheese me!
And that's impressive, because I was really into Kingdom Hearts 1 at the time, and this was released the same year as that. Yeah, I know the gameplay's phenomenal, but good jeebus that writing. Anytime our young lady protagonist talks, it's a roll of the dice whether you'll get a serious moment, a snarky joke worthy of a Disney DVD sequel, or a fourth wall break that could make She-Hulk blush.
A Skittles. You see, marketing didn't want us to show us Skittles all narfed up from stomach juices, so they decided, I'll shut up now.
You collect Skittles, spells, travel between worlds, you beat monsters and solve puzzles. But how this game came to be is actually stranger than the game itself. After wrapping up production on M&M's The Lost Formula, senior producer Elizabeth Braswell was told to make a game about Skittles. And in response, she said,
"Well, you have two choices. You can fire me now and make the next year and a half much easier on me, or you can not make me do this." That night, I went to a bar and got drunk because I was like, this is it. This is the end of my career.
But after some careful thought and alcohol, she decided to use this as an opportunity and excuse to make the game she always wanted to make. Luckily, her licensor had never done a game before, so she handed her 300-page script into the licensors and they were like, yeah, it looks pretty good. Go do that. Even if I can't call the game fun, it's like this is a personal passion project and it's so different to any other junk food game I've seen. So I can't rank it among the worst, let's call it mediocre. In place of the honorable mentions, I'd like to dedicate this part to looking at the various browser games of junk food. There are plenty of games where companies just slap their logo onto Pong or Breakaway and call it a day. But there were times when genuine effort was put into these Flash games, and I'd like to highlight that. Some examples include Capture the Cube, the Transformers Mountain Dew game. What an unusual tie-in. I like seeing a simple stealth-based game in Flash and not your typical simple platformer as many junk food games are. You can even hide from guards by turning into a Mountain Dew machine. What a clever way to get your product placement in. It's light on graphics, but I can comfortably say I enjoyed this Transformers tie-in Flash game way more than I enjoyed the Transformers movie. Give me a 3-hour playthrough of this game over Transformers Age of Extinction any day. At least I won't have a lingering photosensitive headache after. Our next Flash game is We Go Pinball. This is way more fun than it had any right to be, and so damn pretty. Look at the gorgeous colors on this pinball game. Basically, We Go is a low-cost service range of trains in France. And this successfully sold me on noticing the service if I'm ever in France. I'd gladly try it. Next Flash game is Pringles Super Spud Boxing. I admit, I like Pringles. And what a unique idea for advertising the product in a Flash game, punching out spuds. With the Pringles guy taunting us the whole way. Yeah, he finally talks to us and he's a jerk.
Like your grandma.
It's a short peck of fun, and yeah, it kinda made me feel like some Pringles. Our next Flash game is a mouthful. Ritz Bits Sandwiches Sumo Wrestling. Who would have thought some of the most creative ideas for junk food games lay in these small-scale Flash games? Your goal is to smash into other Ritz Bits sumo style, thus you s'more them. And yeah, the advertising wins for me. I wouldn't mind trying a Ritz Bits after this. With that said, let's check out one more junk food game. And last of all, we have the very strange Sneak King from Burger King. This is among the most infamous junk food games of all time. Developed by Blitz Games and released in 2006, it's an Xbox exclusive about the creepy Burger King mascot going around stealth levels to deliver Burger King meals to unsuspecting hungry people. I keep thinking he's going to brutally murder them, but he just gives them food. Totally not creepy at all. This was all part of Burger King's bigger marketing campaign. In 2006, Burger King announced that they would be releasing 3 different video games featuring their mascot. Did anyone ask for that? Really? Why? I never understood this mascot. Was he popular? Was Burger King just trolling us? So we got the notorious Sneak King plus Pocket Bite Racer and Big Bumpin', with all 3 games receiving mixed to negative reviews from critics and gamers.
Sneak King is the gaming equivalent of the Whopper. Tasty at first, though nothing special, and it makes you feel kind of ill by the end. Sneak King isn't a good game, but it's so crazy and so cheap that it manages to be weirdly compelling.
I describe this game similarly. Weirdly compelling. But of all the mascots and directions Burger King could have taken their games, why did it need to center around this guy? The mascot many people have labeled the Creepy King. Maybe Burger King was trying to capitalize on people's unease towards a mascot? I don't know. But every time the king sneaks up on people, I assume I'm about to watch a brutal slasher scene. Not dance around and make people delightfully relieved to not be brutally murdered. But clearly Burger King knows what they're doing, because despite all the negative reviews and strange looks, this was a very successful campaign. The game sold over 2 million copies and was credited with a significant boost in food sales. I guess it just goes to show that these games, regardless of quality, really do play a part in the advertising. As for actually ranking this beast, well, I agree with GameSpot's conclusion.
Sneak King is a one-trick pony that is an interesting curiosity, but a good subversive sense of humour.
It pikes my curiosity, but a few minutes of it was all I needed. Fun fact, 30% of people say that about my channel. But does it make me want to eat at Burger King? Well, no, but it did make me sleep with the light on last night, so at least I remembered it. All that said, junk food games are a dime a dozen. I must have missed a ton of Flash games, and there are so many weird examples out there. So if you remember a game I missed, feel free to mention it in the comments below, or just say hi. Thanks for watching, and whether I see you next time or not, I'll be back. And thanks to my patron bosses and members, including these patrons and members you see here. And an extra thanks to my bosses in the patron shoutout tier. These people include Anna Jones, Procrastinators, Thomas Fernando, or Stismic, Angel Angeline, 3 Cat Day, Bokwi Fan, Skyzo, The Furry of Fury, Cookie Monster, Shockwave FPS Studios, Miss Arceus, Noah C, Fluff Paws, Matthew Kirkland, Asher Gachabasta, Jacob Snyder, Joseph Bowers, Jenny Smith, Alistair, Jordan McCann, Ocean Survival, Chandler Amethyst, Alyssa Michelle, Stealth Diamond, Megan Bruns, Bubbles Dark, The Hug Wizard, Rayan Graves, Saturn Yoshi, Eagle Talon, William Johnson, iCosmic, Ursa Berenice Corso, IndieCore 2, Torchic Nick, and Joe Ferry. Thank you so much to all my patrons. And now it's time for some more Garfield and Nermal. Nermal, long time no see.
Yup. Did you miss me?
Does a toe miss a hangnail?
I missed you too.
Nermal, do you ever have a day where you just aren't cute?
Oh, sure. It happens to the best of us.
What do you do?
I call him ugly.
Why is Nermal turned blue?
I don't know. Why is he grey?
Nermal, have you ever had cosmetic surgery?
Can you keep a secret?
Yes.
See this eyelash?
Yes.
That's real. Garfield.
Nermal.
Click. Garfield, will you play with me?
Go away, Nermal.
We could run and laugh.
Go away, Nermal.
Or in your case, waddle and wheeze.
Come closer, Nermal.
Ding dong.
I wonder who that could be. Oh well, at least I know who it's not. He's too short to reach the doorbell.
Ta-da!
Ah!
Smack. Greetings, old and fat one. Is the floor sagging or is that you?
You used to be cute.
Now I'm precious.